Hello everyone, welcome to the Force Plate Coach YouTube channel. In this video I'm going to show you how you can get your exported Hawkin Dynamics force plate data ready for statistical analyses. I do encourage that you try and follow along in this video if you're interested in preparing your data to go into something formal like SPSS, or even if it's just to do research on the descriptive level and using Microsoft Excel itself, then this should be a useful video for you. So I'm going to dip my camera just to maximise the view, and I'll check back in with you at the end of the video. So the assumption with this spreadsheet is that the data has been downloaded from Hawkin Dynamics. I've just created a CMJ data tab because this data is CMJ specific. When you export it, you'll end up with names, most likely, of the people that took part in the testing, so either the athletes or the participants for a research study. Obviously, for the purpose of this video and the research we do, we take out those subject names anyway. So I've just got numbers instead, so where you've got 3 ones here, that's just the first participant or athlete equivalent for you if you were doing this yourself. And then we've got that all the way going down in column D to however many participants are in that sample. So we've got 22 participants or athletes if you want to think of them that way. The other assumption is that the data's been exported with the variables that we had selected for exporting, and that takes us all the way through to column BJ. Yours might look slightly different depending on which metrics you've got selected or deselected, as the case may be, so it might give you fewer or a larger number of columns. So that's the only difference between me exporting this data and potentially what you might export yourself. Then in sheet 1, I've already put in some of the formula, and I don't want to get bogged down with how the formula is inputted per se, because these will be shared as part of the Excel spreadsheet, this particular one that I'll put online anyway. It's more just to show you the process of how to get from a stat CMJ data sheet, or it could be whichever other testing protocol you might do using Hawkin Dynamics. And by stacked I mean where they've got an individual row for each individual test. So you can see for participant or subject 1, they've got their 3 trials stacked on top of each other, so 1, 2, 3. So those 3 there. Then subject 2 has got those 3 there. Subject 3 has got those 3 there. This is all based on 3 trials being performed by each person. Obviously you may have more than that, and I'll explain how you can factor that in. But effectively, what we're first interested in doing to convert from a stat spreadsheet export into an individual row per person instead, so you end up with the data being flipped and in columns, which is the way it needs to be entered in to SPSS, and it's probably the way you'd want to collate it in Excel if you were doing your stats in Excel as well, is first of all just identify all the individual names or subject numbers, in this case for me, in the actual sample. So what I've done, I've taken the equal signs out for now, but we're using a unique and filter function to find all of the unique or individual cases, whether that be names or subject numbers, in the CMJ datasheet in column D. So before I put in the equal sign there for this to work, I'll just show you that column D is the column in which your name or subject numbers would be exported to. So all I have to do is put in a equal sign and then hit enter, and then it will give us the filtered individual cases. So like we showed earlier, there's 22 individual people included in this data set. That would just be 22 individuals' names if that's the way you had it configured. So the next job is, now we've got each of those individual cases, is to try and find, for where we've got trial 1, the first trial that aligns to that first subject number or name. And what we're going to do is start with system weight, and the reason is, if I go back to the CMJ datasheet tab, is that system weight is the first variable in the column J that we might be interested in exporting and reporting as part of our studies. So I've got all that lined up already, so you can see what we're doing is we're looking through the counter movement jump data tab in column J where the body weight data is. I've put in a ridiculous N number. Nobody's going to have over 1 million samples, I'm sure, within that sheet, so that should be fine. And then we're trying to find the first sample related to subject number 1, or it would be subject or athlete name 1, and that's in cell D4 just here, and it's going to return that first value for us. So if I put in equals and enter, it's giving us the first system weight trial for trial 1 as 876.2613, and if we just do a quick sense check, you can see that's picking out that first number just there. So in J2, cell J2. Then we want to do the same thing, but this time instead of picking out the first instance for that person's trial, we want to pick out the second, or trial 2 in this case as we're calling it. And so we've got a small an if function included this time, and it's picking out the next row along effectively. So if I put in equals and enter here, that's now saying that the second trial system weight for this person is 875 newtons, which you can see is now that second case. And then for the third one, I've left that blank for now so I can show you what we can do. If we just copy and paste this formula and put it where I've got trial 3 for body weight, or system weight I should say, in G4, and paste it in, all I got to do is, instead of trying to find the second instance for that person, is change that to the third and hit enter, and it gives us this estimate of system weight. And again, we'll just do a quick sense check and we can see that that's picking out that number there, which is great. So that's picked out those 3 system weights for subject 1, trial 1, 2 and 3. And then you might be interested in calculating the mean and standard deviation for other purposes, so we can just stick that there in now, same as standard deviation, and we can stick that there as well. Alright, and then I'm just going to reduce the number of decimal places slightly and just centralise this just to tidy it up a bit. So in fact, let's go one more down. So we've basically got there system weight, trial 1, 2 and 3, and the corresponding mean and standard deviation. Now it should be a case with the way this is set up. If I just drag that down, you can see that's picking out different but relatively consistent within its own row system weights. So 9162. So this is basically now, if I just double click, it's dropped down, it's being masked slightly by the formula. It's dropping down now to cell D5, which is our second subject number or name. And it's just going through that same process again with the cells locked in, where it's picking the data from the counter movement jump data spreadsheet, but now trying to filter through that data and find our second subject's data. So again, if I go onto the tab now, we've got 916, 915, 9156. So 916, that would be rounded up to 915, and then that would be rounded up to 915.6. So it's picking out that second subject's trials 1, 2 and 3. And then if I literally just now double click in the bottom right hand corner, once I've got this data selected here, it will downfill. Computer's a little bit slow, I do apologise. It will downfill and fill in all the blanks for all the remaining subjects that we've got. So you can see it's worked perfectly well, apart from with subject 19. Now presumably that's because we've only got 2 instead of 3 trials for subject 19, so it's trying to pick out a third trial here, but it can't. So if we just go down and take a quick look, so subject 19, if I scroll down here, there we go. So subject 19 for whatever reason only did 2 trials, so it's picking out, like, let's call it 920 newtons for those 2. It can be rounded up to the whole number, which is these 2 values that we've got here. So what we can do in this case is just remove that. Alright, if we were in a situation where you had a 4th trial or a 5th trial, all you'd have to do is literally insert a new column, drag this data across, and then just change the number 3 for a number 4 for the 4th trial, and the number 5 for the 5th trial. And it's going to go through and do all that calculation for you, which is brilliant. And then if that's where your sample ends, obviously you can add to this over time. So if you were to collect more data, but you were pooling it into this one data sheet that you're going to run your stats with, then all you can do is just append when you export the data from Hawkin Dynamics, in this case from row 67 down. So you might go up to 40 subjects, for example, and you might want to pull that together if they've all been tested under similar conditions for the same research question, etc. And it's a similar cohort, for example. But for now, we're just going to leave that at 22. And then if we wanted to, we can put in the mean and standard deviation based on this information here. So we can put in average of the averages, and then we can just put in the standard deviation as well. I'll just copy that down and then change that to SDEV. And then if we want, I tend to like to just put this bold. Let's centralize that. In fact, let's centralize this whole column actually. Alright, so we've got the mean and standard deviation there, which is great. But we've only done that for system weight so far. Now the good thing with the way Excel works is, especially when we've locked in the cells, and by locked in, by the way, if you don't know, it's where we put $signs around the letter for the corresponding row, and it will make sure that they pick out the same row and column number each time. So if we select all of this information now and copy it and just paste it next, we can see in a moment, like when the computer catches up, you can see it trying to crunch that there. All right, hopefully you've got a faster operating system than me. That the next variable along, or metric, is jump height. All right, and we just want to change that to centimeters, so you can follow along with what I'm doing. We've got jump height. Oh, it's in meters. My apologies. I'll change that in a second. So in K, so we've got J for system weight, column K for jump height. That's the next primary outcome metric that we're very likely to include in our analyses. So let me just, before I forget, just change that to meters. And then we can use the find and replace function now. So at the moment it's scouring through column J, which is where the system weights were. Or remember, the system weight will be body weight if you've got an unloaded jump. That's why I keep on using the terms interchangeably. I do apologise for doing so. It's just what I'm used to. We can now literally highlight these three columns where we've got the data being pulled out for trial 1, 2 and 3 for each person, or 2 trials for subject 19. And we can use find and replace, and we can just swap. Let's keep it in the dollar signs. So we'll drop, J for K. Alright, and if we click on replace all, it's going to whip through those. Again, hopefully quicker on your system than mine. My previous system would have done this in a click of a finger. There we go, 130 replacements. And now you've got all the corresponding jump height values for those participants as well. So if I just open up the number of decimal points, so you can see that there. So as a convention, we normally report jump height in meters to 2 decimal places. And then you've got all that data there now for each person. So we can do a quick sense check again before we go further. So if we were to pick out, I don't know, let's pick out number 15. So they're saying that they've jumped 35 centimeters, so 0.35 meters for all 3 trials. So we can just check that. So subject 15, we go down. These are the rows that we're interested in, and you can see if that was rounded. In fact, I can do it there for you. To 2 decimal places, and it'd be 35 centimeters, 0.35 meters for each one. So you can basically go through now and start to add whichever metrics you're interested in analysing further from a statistical point of view. And all you have to do is just copy and paste this information across like I did a moment ago. So you can take the jump height across here, or if you wanted to not have to change what you're finding and replace it, you could literally just keep on putting the system weight across. Let's let the computer catch up. We can change that then for jump momentum, for example, if that's what we're interested in reporting. So if we change that to jump momentum, and it's got kilograms, I'm just going to put in a full stop for this bit, kilograms meters per second. Okay, you can change that to a central dot if you wanted to there. And then this time it's the next row along, so I'll just show you again. So this time we go looking for column L, all right. But because we've copied across system weight and not jump height, when we go back to highlighting these trials and go into replace, it's going to remember the J where it's trying to find system weight before. So then all we have to do is swap the K for an L, click on replace all, and it'll pull through the jump momentum data. And then obviously the mean and standard deviation here on the right is going to automatically update because it's still linked to those 3 columns of data that come just next to it. And for this, we can report that to the whole number. I don't think there's very much reason to report it to 1 or 2 decimal places, so let's just shrink that a little bit, and we'll do the same with the mean and standard deviation as well. So there we go. So hopefully you find that useful. If you are using Hawkin Dynamics or any other commercial software where you'll export the data, usually as a CSV file, and it's got that stat approach where it puts a row per test rather than a row per person, which is the way it's normally needed for entering into some sort of statistical analyses, then you can take this spreadsheet, you can make it your own. It doesn't matter if it's not counter movement jump data, this could be counter movement rebound jump or isometric mid-thigh pull or whatever it might be. You can follow that same process and just make sure that you just select the correct column and that you've got the subjects that have been appropriately identified as individual cases in column D.
Thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Even if you're not using Hawkin Dynamics force plate system and you're using a similar one that will give you data as it's exported with a row per trial as opposed to a row per individual participant or athlete, you should be able to apply the same process. Just make sure that you adjust the columns that you're selecting to make sure you retrieve the right variables depending on which variables it is that you're interested in reporting. Obviously download the spreadsheet if you want to use it. Feel free then to amend it and to include any variables that might be of interest to you. If you like the video, please give it the thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already. I'll speak soon.